Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the special meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Tuesday, May 19th, 2020. The meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. It is 10:12 a.m. Dr. Campos, you can work with us to establish quorum, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. Roll call for today. We have Commissioner Caloza, Commissioner James in the chambers at City Hall. We also are joined by Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Garcia calling in remotely from their home. And then we are also joined by Commissioner Villegas that's dialing in remotely from her office here at City Hall. Mr. Ted Jordan is joining us as well as our General Counsel, and myself here, Mr. Jordan is dialing in remotely, and myself, I am here at City Hall in chambers. Mr. President, you do have a quorum for today's special agenda. We currently do not have any public commentary under the general public comment. We do not have any neighborhood council commentary at this time. We did receive an email on item number 3, and then we also have 3 members of the general public that are in the queue for public comment on item number 3 as well.
Okay, so, and Dr. Campos, you've identified the callers on item 3?
Yes.
Okay, and they're not, you don't have the callers for any other items, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, then colleagues, agenda item number 1 is the approval of the meeting minutes from the special meeting of May the 8th, 2020. Commissioner Caloza has seconded my motion to approve those meeting minutes. Any objection on those? Without objection, we will approve the meeting minutes. That was agenda item number 1. We can send those forthwith. Dr. Campos, agenda item number 2 are bids that we have on 2 projects for landscape maintenance of median islands, one in the East Valley and one in the Bay Harbor area. Both of the estimates are $775,000. I'll turn number 2 over to you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. President. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. The bids to be received, again, are for the landscape maintenance of median islands in the valley, East Valley. We did receive 2 bids. We will go ahead and begin to open up those bids for that first project.
Which one are you doing first?
We're doing the landscape maintenance of median islands at specific locations, East Valley.
East Valley, okay, thank you.
East Valley. And just to clarify, I did say 2 bids. We did receive 3 bids for the East Valley. The first bid for the first project, again, this is East Valley, is from Sandy Grapp, G-R-A-P Incorporated, doing business as BMC Landscape Management. Sandy Group. Okay. I will go with Sandy Group. It reads as Sandy Grapp. Doing business as BMC Landscape Maintenance.
We'll just call him BMC. How's that?
BMC. Landscape Maintenance for a total bid amount of $1,458,283.93. That's 1458283.93 from BMC Landscape Maintenance. The second bid for the first project is from International Environmental Corporation for a total bid amount of $2,017,734.42. That is 2017734.42 from International Environmental Corporation. The third and final bid received for the first project is from Mariposa Landscapes Incorporated for a total bid amount of $2,118,684 even. That's 2118684 from Mariposa Landscape Incorporated. Mr. President, that concludes the bid openings for the first project. Again, that was for the East Valley project. We will now begin to open up bids for the second project on today's agenda, and that's the landscape maintenance of median islands at specific locations in the Bay Harbor area, Council Districts 8, 9, 10, 11, and 15, estimated at $775,000. For the second project, we did receive two bids. The first bid is from Mariposa Landscape for a total bid amount of $2,323,994 even. That's 2323994 from Mariposa Landscape Incorporated. The second and final bid received for the second project is from Green Garden Incorporated for a total bid amount of $2,118,067.20. That's 2118067.20 from Green Garden Incorporated. Mr. President, that concludes the bid openings for the second project and all bids for today's special meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. So, Dr. Campos, thank you for that. That's all the bids we have to open this morning. Is there a second to my motion that the bids have been received, opened, and declared forthwith?
I'll second that.
By Commissioners Villegas and Garcia. Any objection, Commissioner Davis?
No, no objections.
Thank you. No objection in the room. So that'll be the order on agenda item number 2. Agenda item number 5 is an administrative item. Council District 13, specifications have been submitted for board adoption and authorization to advertise for the invitation of bids. This is for the North App Falls Sewer Rehabilitation Unit 14, Marsh Street to Forney Street project. The estimate's $19,850,500. The bid receipt date is June 30th, 2020. Is there a second to my motion that we approve agenda item number 5 forthwith by Commissioner Caloza? Commissioner Davis, any objection?
None.
Thank you. Commissioner Villegas?
No objection.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia?
None.
Okay, without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 5 forthwith. Agenda item number 4 is an authority for expenditure for USA Waste of California Incorporated. Street Services, Streets LA, and the Office of Accounting are requesting board approval and an execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $170,000. That makes it a new adjusted amount of $1,370,000 to encumber funds for the disposal and recycling services provided to the Bureau of Street Services, also known as Streets LA. Dr. Campos, we don't have any callers on the queue on number 4, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, Ms. Mancha on number 4.
Good morning, Commissioners. Gina Mancha, Bureau of Street Services. The original AFE for this USA Waste contractor was for $1.2 million, and we need to increase it by $170,000 to pay the final actual invoice to the contractor. It was a little bit above what we had estimated when we first encumbered the AFE, and this is just to close out the year and payment to the contractor.
Okay, any questions on agenda item number 4, Commissioner Villegas?
I have none, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia?
No questions either, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis?
None for me.
All right, no questions in the room either, so I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 4. Seconded by, which one? Oh, Commissioner Villegas, thank you. And Commissioner Garcia, harder for me to see. Any objection, Commissioner Davis?
No objection.
Thank you. No objection in the room either. So without objection, this one is one of the ones that needs to be amended subject to the mayor's approval. So that's the motion, seconded by Commissioner Villegas and Garcia. And then no objection from Commissioner Davis or Commissioner Caloza. So without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 4 as amended. We can send number 4 forthwith as amended. Thank you for the reminder, Dr. Campos, on number 4. Agenda item number 3. Let me call the item. I know we have 3 callers at least on number 3. And with, it sounds like primarily interested parties, although all speakers are generally interested parties, I suppose, but more real parties and interests, and we don't have a substantial number of them, so I'm inclined to relax the time constraints on public comment on this item to a certain degree. We'll see how it goes, but let me go ahead and call the item, then we'll go through the hearing. Street Services Council District Number 6, a tree removal 14709 through 14719 West Plummer Street, recommending that the board find under the California Public Resources Code Section 21166 and the state's Environmental Quality Act guidelines, Section 15162, on the basis of substantial evidence contained in the whole record, that since the city's prior, excuse me, I've got some of my breakfast bar caught in my throat. Thank you. that since the city's prior certification of the mitigated negative declaration, and the number is in the agenda, there have been no changes to the project, changes with respect to the circumstances under which the project is being undertaken, or new information of substantial importance concerning the project, which cause new significant environmental effects, or a substantial increase in the severity of previously identified significant effects, and therefore no subsequent M&D, supplemental M&D, or other analysis is required for the project. That's the first recommendation. Secondly, specify that Street Services, Streets LA Urban Forestry Division, located at 1149 South Broadway, is custodian of the documents or other material that constitute the record of the proceedings upon which the board's decision is based. And third, review and approve the request for a fee permit for removal of 7 Southern California black walnut trees. These are protected trees. Tree replacements are required. So, Mr. Banuelos, we will start with you for your summary, and then we'll go to our speakers.
Yes. Good morning, President James, Commissioners. This is Hector Banuelos, Urban Forestry Division with the Streets LA. The AG Plumber LLC, the developer, is proposing to construct 28 new small lot family residences at 14709 through 14719 West Plummer Street. There are actually 4 parcels at this location, and the developer is going to divide it or subdivide it into 28 small lot single family residences. On the property, there are 22 trees, which include 7 Southern California black walnut trees. The trees are in fair to poor condition, measuring approximately 4 to 60 inches in cumulative diameter by approximately 10 to 40 feet in height. According to the applicant, the area must be cleared and graded in order to prepare the area for construction. There are 4 walnuts that are within and directly adjacent to the footprint of some of the proposed dwellings, and 3 of the walnuts are within the footprint of the proposed driveways needed to access the residences. The required grading and home construction will severely impact the 7 Southern California black walnut trees and requires their removal. The Department of City Planning prepared a mitigated negative declaration for the project, and finding that the project will have less significant effect on the environment with the incorporation of mitigation measures contained therein. The 6th Council District Office was notified of the tree removal permit request, as well as the Community Forestry Advisory Committee and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. The Streets LA has not heard not received a response from the council office in either support or in opposition to the project or tree removals. If approved, the applicant shall plant 14 48-inch box size coast live oak trees and 14 24-inch box size or as large a container size available of the California bay laurel trees. These trees are native trees as well. The trees will be guaranteed for a period of 3 years with the applicant post a cash bond to ensure their survival. Any questions?
Okay. Before we go to our speakers, Any questions yet of Mr. Banuelos? Commissioner Banuelos, any questions of Mr. Banuelos before we go to our speakers? Commissioner Davis?
Wanted to ask Mr. Banuelos, in terms of the replacement trees, how did we achieve the selection that we got in terms of what the trees would be?
Well, that was a recommendation by the architect there of the project. Streets LA reviewed the request and determined that the replacement trees were deemed appropriate for the type of construction that is proposed.
I see. Are there circumstances where we replace the protected trees similar to the same that we remove? For example, in this case, it's black walnut. Are there any circumstances where we would replace it with black walnut, or is black walnut deemed not the most appropriate for this site?
But providing you can acquire the black walnut in large container-sized trees, we feel it may be appropriate to plant them. And this area is it's all developed. All the areas around this location are all developed. And so we're talking about what's going to be a developed site. And we determined that it's, in fact, the Coates Live Oaks and the California Bay Laurels will have a better opportunity to survive this type of environment. It's not a native environment here that is conducive to survival of the walnut. So and also the size of the walnuts are very difficult to obtain, and anything larger than a 5-gallon size. So that's why we're allowing the change of the tree species.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Any questions before we move to the speakers? Commissioner Villegas?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia? Commissioner Garcia, any questions before we move to the speakers?
Sorry, I thought I had it on mute. No questions from my side.
All right, thank you. So, Dr. Campos, can you work with me for a moment to identify our three speakers? I heard Mr. Cargill on one of the lines. He represents the applicant. Who are the other two?
We have Mr. John Kizotos, who is the architect, and we also have Mr. Paul Lewis, who is also part of the development team consultant.
Okay, do we have any other callers?
We do have 3 other callers from the general public that would like to make public commentary on item number 3.
Okay, can you identify the 3 of them for me first?
Absolutely. We have Miss Joanne D'Antonio. Second, we have Diane Zogran.
I'm sorry, what's the last name?
Diane Zogran, Z-O-G-R-A-N.
Z-O-D?
Z for zebra, O-G for George, R-A-N. Zogran.
Zogran, okay.
And the third caller is Mr. Jamie Hall.
Okay. Ms. D'Antonio, would you pull her up, please?
Absolutely. Joanne, your microphone has been unmuted at this time. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. D'Antonio, are you speaking on behalf of any organization at all, either a neighborhood council or CFAC?
I am not. CFAC has not been allowed to meet. We've not gotten anything from the city attorney about how we can meet. We've been put on hold since the coronavirus.
So, Dr. Campos, can we work this again like we were doing the other day so that it's easier for me to hear?
Yes, I can definitely move the microphone back just a little to reduce the feedback. However, the concern that I do have is those that are listening in through our website, through our Granicus online portal, may have difficulty in listening to the entire conversation.
Well, can we try it?
But it is being recorded, so I will try it again.
I just want to try and see if we'll test it with the callers to see if they can hear as well. So Ms. D'Antonio, work with us for a moment here. We're not going to take away any of your time. I just want to try and get the speaking system to work.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Ms. D'Antonio, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, one moment. Let me see if others can hear you. Mr. Jordan, can you hear Ms. D'Antonio just now?
Yes, I can. And if I may add, I'm not aware that my office is preventing CFAC from meeting. They have to comply with the RAND Act like every other body. So.
We've had people trying
What,
to.
Ms. D'Antonio,
trying to
that's
be-
not,
Can you tell me what we should do?
this meeting is not the
tell me
time
who to
for that,
contact?
ma'am. This is a
This is
public
not-
meeting. If you want to speak on the tree item, you can. But any conversations you want to have about instructions regarding your CPAC meeting, this public hearing, it's not proper for that. You can take that up with the city attorney's office. I'm just following the law.
Mr. President, I have a point of clarification. I think that the new rules on meeting through COVID-19 and the CDC instructions throughout the country certainly play in when you have a meeting of over 9 people. Certainly it's played with us and everyone else. And so I'm sure that that will be discussed moving forward as it relates to any other concerns about meetings. And I just wanted to put that on the record.
Understood. Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Mr. Jordan.
I could hear. I just wanted to respond to what she had said.
That's fine.
And Mr.
So, Ms. D'Antonio, you'll need to take that up with the city attorney's office.
All right.
And that's fine. We appreciate that. But please take 3
I'm
minutes to.
speaking as an individual.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm a member of CFAC, but I'm speaking as an individual.
Great. We just wanted to clarify that. So please take
Okay.
Please take 3 minutes, and we can all hear you. Go right ahead.
Okay, the council office planning deputy is on vacation until June 10th. I just want that to be known. That's council office 6. Panorama City is an environmental justice area, and this developer wants to remove a significant native tree. If you look at tree photo number 5, first photo in transmittal 10, you see a large, healthy walnut tree. This tree would not be allowed to be removed in Pasadena or Beverly Hills. Why are we not preserving this tree and putting the HOA open space where this tree is located so it gives residents shade as soon as they move in rather than 15 years from now if the new trees survive? Walnut trees are not replanted in general per UFD, and these are important to our health. Wildlife habitat is species specific, so we open ourselves to problems, even lead to pandemics. This is real if you pay attention to scientists. We need to ask ourselves why we spend time and money having tree removal hearings for developments when plans are already done. Also at CFAC, we recommended 15-gallon trees as replacement trees because trees delivered in large boxes are root-bound and have problems surviving. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. D'Antonio. Dr. Campos.
Not objecting to the removal of all of the trees.
Okay. Thank you. We're clear on that. Dr. Campos, let's go to Ms. Zogren.
Absolutely. Ms. Zogren, Diane, your microphone has been unmuted.
Ms. Zogren, are you speaking on behalf of any organization, CFAC, or neighborhood council? Let's try her again one more time, Dr. Campos.
Hi, Diane. Ms. Zogren.
Hello, sorry about that. President James, Commissioners, I'm the Science Advisor for the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance Trees Committee.
Okay, is this something that was agendized by the Neighborhood Council?
I am just the advisor, so
Okay.
you would have to ask the chair.
Okay, go ahead. Take 3 minutes for your comments on this tree item.
Thank you so much. So the subject proposed project is actually the third California walnut tree, that's also known as the Southern California black walnut tree, for removal for development in our city that I've reviewed in less than a week, where staff is proposing that they not be replaced in kind. Here, the project would result in the destruction of an additional 7 mature California black walnut trees, and I would disagree with staff on the health of those trees right now. But that's on top of the 41 that came out of planning last week that I assume will be before your board in the near future, for which no California walnut replacement trees are proposed. Staff's view is apparently that adverse impacts from the loss of our treasured California walnut trees can be remedied so long as the applicant plants bay laurel and coast live oak trees. These trees serve very different functions and provide different services for wildlife. In urban areas, California walnuts provide unique food and habitat for the native birds and for other wildlife. Moreover, the California walnut tree is considered a rare species by state agencies, the loss of which must be mitigated by means other than the proposed out-of-kind tree replacement scheme. I've heard city staff, and again today, I've heard city staff in the past, I should say, and again today, argue that it's hard to find horticulture stock of California walnut trees. I would say that's actually a good argument for not removing these rare trees, but in my work as a landscaper for over 20 years, I have no problem obtaining horticulture stock of California walnut trees in 5 to 15 gallon size, which is the appropriate size for a successful establishment of native trees, and one of the reasons why they don't sell them as big box trees. I even work with a native plant nursery that will grow to order. The proposed out-of-kind replacement tree plan really does ensure that conditions for our California walnuts and the wildlife that rely on them will only get worse for this rare species. So I strongly urge the board to deny the tree removal for this project as proposed and require that California walnut trees, that must be removed for reasonable development, be replaced at a 4-to-1 ratio. And I hope that you will seriously consider the impact of not deciding to replace in kind. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. Dr. Campos, let's go to Jamie Hall, please.
Absolutely. Mr. Hall, your landline has been unmuted.
Good morning. My name is Jamie Hall.
Mr. Hall,
I'm
one
an
moment.
attorney
A couple of questions. We have a letter from you. You stated that you are representing, I forgot the name of this particular group. We have new ones.
I know. Urban Woodlands Watch.
Okay. So, and it says representation without compensation, whatever it's in your letter. How much time do you need for your presentation this morning?
No more than 5 minutes.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Great. I want to start off here by saying that I come before the board many times, but the request here is very focused and narrow. And I think you've already been given a preview of that. And the issue here is that the walnut trees are not being replaced with walnut trees. And my client is asking the board to require that the replacement trees be walnut trees. So it's very focused. We're not going to have a conversation today about whether or not you can make the required findings for the tree removal permit, whether or not it's reasonable development. That's not what we're talking about today. It's only about what the replacement trees should be. And I want to explain from a legal basis why, you've already heard from Mrs. Ogren the scientific basis for why that should be required, but there's a legal basis as well. And so I want to give you the legal justification for that decision. And so apparently the city planning department and also the applicants, environmental professionals, and arborists didn't know that the Southern California black walnut is considered a rare species by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife is a trustee agency, and the city owes a duty to them to consult with them, to notify them of mitigated negative declarations, and to send copies of the mitigated negative declarations to the state clearinghouse. And so the California Department of Fish and Wildlife has actually published a document, and the title of that is protocols for surveying and evaluating impacts to special status native plant populations and sensitive natural communities. And what they say there is that that species that have a California rare plant rank of 3 or 4 warrant consideration under CEQA and qualify as rare species. And so the Southern California black walnut has a ranking of 4.2. So therefore, it meets the California Department of Fish and Wildlife believes it's a rare species. And we think that that's significant new information of substantial importance that warrants a subsequent negative declaration be prepared. But getting to the very most important thing here is that you can't mitigate the impacts to the loss of a rare species by planting a different species. The reason why the Southern California black walnut in large part has been declared to be a rare species and is considered by the Department of Fish and Wildlife to be a rare species is because of declining trends and development in urban areas. So basically, one by one, there's a loss of the overall population. And so it's really critical that when we remove these protected species, these rare protected species, that we replace them with the same species. Different trees provide different ecological services. And so you don't necessarily replicate the environmental benefits by planting a different species. I mean, one really obvious example is the fact that the Southern California black walnut produces walnuts. Every spring, you see walnuts on these trees, and those walnuts play a critical role in native wildlife that have actually evolved to be part of this overall ecosystem. And so what we want the city to do is to require in-kind replacement. I've had a conversation with the director of the nursery at Tree People. They told me they have an excess number of Southern California black walnuts that they have grown there. We know that you can also obtain these walnuts at the Theodore Payne Foundation nursery. So, and also they're not going to have to be replaced immediately. The whole development has to be done, and then there's going to be the planting. So you have time. You can grow to order. You can order these trees, and they can be grown to meet your needs. So what we want to urge, and it's a really easy thing for you to do, is to just urge that and require that the removed walnuts be replaced with walnuts. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, colleagues, for Mr. Hall before we move to the applicant? Seeing none, we have, I've got 3 names that are attached to the applicant, Mr. Cargill, Mr. Casota, and Mr. Lewis. Let's go to Mr. Cargill first, Dr. Campos.
Hello, this is Ron Cargill.
Mr. Cargill, before you start, one moment, before you start, I have a couple of questions. Is there, as representing the applicant, we don't put a hard line time limit on you, but I would like an estimate of how much time you think you would need. Number 2, there are 3 people that I've been given names are representing the applicant today. All 3 of you can speak if you would like. My only caution is we would prefer that people not repeat each other, and keep in mind the time of everybody that's involved in the meeting. And if there's a specific order you would like to go in, you can let me know that as well, or if it's just going to be one of you. So before we start, could you give me that kind of procedural rundown?
Okay, as far as myself, I only need maybe 3 to 4 minutes maximum. I'll lead out, and then I can be followed by our landscape architect, Paul Lewis, who could speak to some of the issues that were raised. And then we have Juan Kivotos, who our architect, and he's available if there's any issues about the architecture or the design of the site.
Great, thank
what
you.
I can say
Go
is
ahead.
that we worked very closely with the council office in developing this plan and with the Department of City Planning. And then also we went before the City Planning Commission, and we're following up on the requirements that were placed on us and conditions that we received from the Planning Commission. The overall project is 28 small lot homes, and we'll be clearing the entire site and grading it so that the property drains back towards Plummer Street from north to south. And so we have to, because of the soil conditions, we have to remove and then recompact the entire site. It'll be served with two roadways that will come in and service the homes, the sort of driveway roadways, and they'll all have access on Plummer. So that's essentially what our project consists of. We've met and worked very closely with the neighborhood councils. They were involved with the design of the project and the zone change action that we went through. And then again, we worked very closely with the neighborhood council when it came to the tree removals. They supported the land use committee supports the tree removal request, as well as the full neighborhood council. The land use committee made a recommendation back in November, and the full neighborhood council, the Panorama City Neighborhood Council, voted and to support the tree removal request in December, just prior to the beginning of the year, at the end of December. And they were to prepare letters, but so far I haven't seen their letters in the file. So I would defer to Paul to speak to the trees and the replacement that's being proposed.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ron.
Any questions for Mr. Cargill before we go to Mr. Lewis?
Yeah.
Commissioner Davis.
Mr. Cargill, I wanted to ask, it looks like, first of all, I think that you all have done a great job in terms of your testimony and your outreach and what you have done working with both our city trees nonprofit as well as working with the council office, and I will address that later in another comment. But I wanted to ask you, it has been said that there are some resources from which we can identify black walnut trees or the same tree. Would you, as a developer of this project, be opposed to considering that if it came to your attention that that could be done?
I believe the developer would be open to considering that. I don't think we have there's no opposition to that. We would consider that if that's the recommendation that came to the board. We're open and willing to work with the Urban Forestry and the Board of Public Works.
Ron, I'm going to be speaking to that.
Okay. Well, I thank you so much in terms of the work that you have described that has been done by your team, and I really appreciate what I believe comprehensively you have gone about approaching it, touching base with, I think, very important stakeholders in doing a project. So I thank you for that, and more importantly, I also thank you for your continuing to be open about how we can resolve this problem. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Villegas, any questions of Mr. Cargill before we go to Mr. Lewis?
Yes, I just wanted to get clarification. He said that he spoke to the neighborhood council. Is that correct?
Yes.
And did they take a
Yes,
position when you spoke?
Say that again, please.
I said, did they take a position?
Did they take a vote on the item, sir?
Yes. Oh, yes, they did. We met with the Land Use Committee. It was in the October or November of last year, and they took a vote, and they all unanimously supported the request for the tree removal. And then the matter went to the full neighborhood council, and the full neighborhood council also took a vote and supported the request for the tree removal. So there should be documentation in their minutes, and they said that they were to prepare a letter, but probably due to the COVID issues, I don't know that they've generated a letter reflecting their determination. But there were actions taken before both the Land Use Committee and the full neighborhood council.
Okay. And then just looking at the Google Maps, it looks like these are vacant lots and that they've been vacant for some time. Is that correct?
Yes, and they've had people that have vandalized the area and started fires, and homeless people that live on the property. So we're trying to move forward so that we can actually start construction and not have the problems that are involved that the neighborhood is concerned about.
It looks like there's two adjacent homes next to the vacant lot. Are those also part of the development?
No, those are other properties, and what happens is the people utilize our property and they cut through the fence, and they live in those homes, and there have been fires in those homes by people that are living there illegally.
Okay, and is there anything that you're going to do to mitigate something like that? What are you going to do to protect so that they're not able to jump over, or are you guys going to be putting like some brick wall or what?
Yeah, we'll be under construction. We'll be surrounded with by a brick wall surrounding the project site, and once it's developed, there'll be people living there. Nobody will be able to cut through the property.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Commissioner Garcia, any questions before we go to Mr. Lewis?
I do not, thank you. I think everything has been answered.
All right, thank you. Mr. Lewis, go ahead, sir. How much time do you think you need?
About 5 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, President James. Good morning, other commissioners. First, just a little bit about the project. I'm a landscape architect who prepared the tree report. I'm not the landscape architect of record who prepared the plans. She was not available today, but I can speak to the project. There is a little misinformation on the letter from the Channel Law Group saying that we did not know there were protected trees. We were very clearly stated in our report there are protected trees, and we identified 7. We actually first were on the project in 2016, and at that time there were only 6 protected trees, and the 7th came in because a tree that had a 3-inch diameter grew and became 4-inch, at which point we added it to become a 7th protected tree. We're cognizant of this. One of the problems we have in projects like this is we were given direction from planning department, which requires replacement of 24-inch box trees, and it's been stated very well both by the attorney and the scientist who spoke before me that the walnut is available in 5 and 15 and does not do well in 24. We actually tried bringing 24s down, tried bringing walnuts, growing them up to a 24-inch box several years ago for other projects to see if we could do it, and they never did well. The walnuts do really well at a 5, really establish themselves well from a 5 or a 15, even better at a 5. So if we can get Public Works to work with planning and with working with urban forestry to accept 5-gallon and 15-gallon walnuts for replacement trees for mitigation, I'd be very happy with that myself, because I do believe the black walnut is an important tree in our ecosystem. However, one thing about the tree is the black walnut doesn't do very well in tight urban spaces, in tight developed areas. So around the houses of this project, we worked with urban forestry to find alternate trees, which are other protected trees, to still create an established landscape with the natives. However, as a compromise, something I can suggest, because the north end of this project is an open space where there isn't development other than the open space landscape, and it's adjacent to the Pacoima Creek, which will never be developed, we could easily fit 9, where we show 9 trees right now, and 12 or possibly more black walnuts as we plant them at 5 and 15 gallon. So I think we can make a very good accommodation that will satisfy what we need to do for development with the trees, proposed trees around the houses. And then in that open space, I think we can offer like the 9, 12, even, possibly 15. I haven't really looked at the square footage of the area. To put maintain black walnuts in this area adjacent to the creek. So that's something I'd like to offer today. I think everyone would be very happy with that. And that's basically everything I have. I'm available for questions.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Lewis. It sounds to me like we have, based on, and I'll go back around the table, but based on what Mr. Hall's requirement is on replacing, and Ms. Zogren, replacing with black walnuts, and then your side, the applicant's willingness to do so. Mr. Jordan, this takes me to you, though, and maybe Mr. Banuelos. There has been a statement, if I heard properly from both sides, about the size of the tree well, or rather the box of the trees, and that the smaller box tree is actually better for the black walnut. Did I hear that correctly? And if so, do we have the discretion at the Board of Public Works to grant the replacement tree size to be a reduced tree size to better fit and provide a better opportunity for the survival and thriving of the black walnut in this circumstance?
Yes, I believe we do. I'd really, to be 100% sure, I'd really have to kind of dig into the weeds of the conditions imposed by the planning department. My initial review of that shows a great amount of deference or delegation of authority to the planning department. Not all planning actions done by an advisory agency or a area planning commission, expressly delegates down to the board to approve the trees and tree replacements. Some don't. This one did. And so that delegation does look like it was fairly broad. I'm not 100% certain because there's language about protected trees, there's language about street trees, but I do believe we would have the flexibility to come down in size. Sounds like there's a very good scientific basis. I think Mr. Lewis, a respected landscape architect, and Mr. Hall and our urban forestry people, and indeed our first speaker or second speaker, was it, all agree that these particular tree species do better when they're planted smaller, in that 5 to 15 gallon size. So I think bottom line is I think we do have that discretion, and certainly everyone on this issue seems to agree as well.
Well, I'm willing to take the risk with everybody agreeing because I don't feel like it's going to get a challenge if we, in that respect. Mr. Banuelos, is that something that we could convince Streets LA and Urban Forestry to agree to, since we have all the parties in alignment on this issue?
Yes, we're in agreement with that. Whatever the board's agreement with, my concern with that would be, and as Paul Lewis mentioned also, I kind of agree with that, what he stated about the tight planting area, the smaller planting area. The black walnut does not seem to perform as well in those type of environments, especially when you plant it between homes. And so on this plan here, particularly along Plummer Street, we wanted to put them in a front planter. Now, the black walnut doesn't like when the soil is disturbed on there. So if they're going to put any kind of annuals or any kind of small plantings on them and change them occasionally, they're going to definitely affect the health and the black walnut. Whereas the trees identified along Plummer Street, the oaks would actually fit in kind of nice there, and also provide the shade along the roadways there. Where the black walnut, it's going to be somewhat of a challenge to get them to grow where they're going to provide a significant amount of shade. However, on the HOA area towards the back, on the west side of the property, it looks like there is opportunity to plant the black walnut trees along that areas there. And we could, as Paul Lewis referred to, we could at least plant maybe 10 or maybe perhaps 12 of the walnut trees in that area. And there looks like opportunity, whereas these doesn't really need to have bedding plants and what have that may affect the black walnut later on throughout their lifespan. So, yes, absolutely. Urban forestry is definitely amenable to the changing the tree species out to the black walnuts, replacing some of the lowers.
I feel like, thank you, Mr. Van Willis. Colleagues, I feel like on this one, we've got some well-versed people on this issue that are on this project, fortunately for the project, obviously. And if we can revise the replacement plan, which I think we have the discretion to do, to allow the planting of the smaller black walnuts, both sides understand the caution around it in the environment that they'll be planted in, but we also have the opportunity for them to be well taken care of as the project is built and the environmental guidelines are followed. I'm willing to take the risk on that with these replacement trees that both sides have agreed on during our meeting today.
Question?
Yes.
President Jordan? I think Mr. Jordan, your
one moment.
attorney.
Is that Mr. Lewis? Identify yourself.
This is Paul Lewis.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So on the letter of determination, it does say under MM2 that the replacement, it says the size of trees, it says if available. So I believe it does leave discretion for public works and urban forestry to allow for some accommodation in it. I think if Mr. Jordan looked at that, that's the area that's really the main one for what we're talking about for protecting trees.
Okay, Mr. Jordan, would you repeat that back to us? I can hear you clearer than I could, Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, if Paul could repeat what condition that was, I'll be happy to take a look at it. I have the document up on my computer. I just didn't hear.
Letter, page 11, M as in Michael, M as in Michael, 2.
Did you hear that, Mr. Jordan?
Yes, I'm looking at it now.
Okay, we'll give you a moment.
The last letter, E as in Eric, is the...
Yes, I got to it. It does say if available. In fact, what it does say, I got too many windows going on here. It says a minimum of 48-inch box if available. So I think we have discretion, and I think I agree with Paul's reading of that. And I think certainly people would agree that a 48-inch box, if what we are talking about black walnuts holds true, the 48-inch box, even if it is available, probably would not be a good thing to plant. But I will defer to the tree experts.
If I may speak again, Mr. James, is Paul Lewis?
Yes, go ahead.
This actually brings up an excellent item for you as a board to discuss and look at and work with urban forestry to provide better guidelines for the planning department, because the planet keep putting in boilerplate language without the knowledge or understanding of the trees it's talking about. You could get a 48-inch box black walnut. Yes, you can an oak. Yes, you can the sycamore, but never a black walnut. That only is in a 5 or 15. Like I said, we tried it at 24 inch. I think if urban forestry prepares guideline language and public works for planning department for future for their letter of determination, this doesn't keep coming up, because this happens a lot to us where we're asked whether there's a 48 or sometimes even 4 that we can't provide to make the accommodation required, and we come up with these, doing these alternates, which is been very well stated as objections from these other people on the other side. So to really make this work in the future, I think with these guidelines, we can always have good solutions. So we're coming up with today, I think, by putting in however many number we determine of the black walnut. And I would actually err on a larger number of black walnuts because of survivability. And we can recommend to Ms. McGowan to remove the underplanting, so it's strictly just the walnut in the establishment area in that open space.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis. And by the way, along with your suggestion, Mr. Van Willis, I do think, and my recollection is that we've had the discussion of some time ago of revisiting some of the guidelines from urban forestry over to planning to provide some helpful information. Specifically, Exhibit A today would be this issue around the black walnut and the correct size box for that tree. But I still heard, if I heard correctly, Mr. Jordan, agreement by yourself that the board has the discretion for me to make a motion right now that would be to grant the tree removal permit with the condition that the replacement trees be the black walnut trees of the appropriate size. That's the 5 to 15 box size. So we're revising the tree and the size, and that that your impression is that I would have the discretion to make that motion and seek a second. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. That is my motion.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioners Caloza, Davis, and Villegas, and Garcia. So that's the order. Let me thank you, Mr. Cargill, Mr. Lewis, and Mr. Hall, and Ms. Zogren as well, who called in on with the more project specific on this, and Ms. D'Antonio for taking the time to call in too. So any issue sending agenda item number 3 forthwith?
No.
Yes,
no,
one more.
No objections.
Wait.
One moment, Commissioner Villegas.
No objections, but you know, I don't. I think it's Mr. Lewis who recommended, or I can't remember the exact person who mentioned that some of the language that we use is very general. Can we?
I think he said boilerplate. Yes.
Can we provide any kind of recommendation from, from our, inside urban forestry staff to be able to give to planning or to Streets LA on maybe some projects that can give a little bit more guidance?
Yes, I do. I just don't know that it's proper to do it under this agenda item.
Okay. No problem.
But I think that the request, Commissioner Villegas, from yourself, I would support it as well. I think we can talk to Streets LA about getting with planning on that.
Okay.
So that's a well-received request. Thank you across the board. So let me do one thing that we don't have the luxury on these virtual calls of. Sometimes somebody representing one of the sides will raise their hand in our hearing room if there's something that they want to add, and oftentimes I'll let that occur. With both sides coming in with good faith today, I'm going to try that real quick. Mr. Hall, you've heard the action of the board. Satisfactory for your issues this morning?
Mr. Hall, your line has been unmuted.
Mr. Hall?
Okay, I'm unmuted. Sorry about that. Yes, I just want to also say thank you to Mr. Lewis for being open to coming up with a creative way to resolve this, and for recognizing the fact that our clients really do care and are coming from a good place. So the only thing that we would ask, and it obviously doesn't have to happen right now, but we'd like to continue to. We'd like to see the new replanting plan that you put together, and that's the only thing. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for being open to this.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hall. Thank you for your time and effort on this as well. Mr. Lewis, sir, thank you. Anything that you would like to add, recognizing that Commissioner Villegas, as the liaison to Streets LA and Urban Forestry, certainly has the ability to help you achieve the recommendations from Streets LA to planning that you had requested for an update. But Mr. Lewis, anything further from you, sir?
Yeah, in the motion, or however it's finally decided, what I'd like to suggest is, what we'll do on the plan is, in the open space, we will have those 9 replacement trees will be, for what's shown on the current plan, will be changed to the black walnut. However, we'll probably plant more than just those 9. We may plant 18, double up at 18, which will get more black walnuts. But for the purpose of bonding, 9 will be bonded. But because it's a very sensitive tree, to know which ones will survive, as long as in that area there are at least 9 trees at the end of the bond, so the bond can be returned. Because we might plant 9 15s and 9 5s, and 4 of one and 5 of another survive just based on what happens over the 3 years. So we'd like a little latitude on that, so we don't get caught with on the bonding. If there's a way to do that.
I understand that. Mr. Jordan, any problem there?
No, I have no problem with that as long as the certain number of trees that we require bonded. If there's additional trees planted, as Mr. Lewis suggests, I think that's a good idea, but I don't think the bond requirement should necessarily be extended to the trees that planting as he suggested.
Okay. I think we're square on that. Mr. Banuelos, are you clear?
Yes, to some extent, but so I understand this correctly. All the replacement trees will be black walnut trees, correct?
Yes.
Or only
No.
in the HOA area?
Whoa.
That was your motion.
I'm sorry. That was the motion. So do we have a discrepancy? I'm sorry.
Well, it appeared that Paul was referring just to the HOA area. I just wanted to be clear as to what the replacement trees and the tree replacement plan.
Mr. Lewis, go ahead. Let's get a clarification on this, because that was the motion.
Right. That the plan as presented will be with the oak and the bay laurel around the home, and then in the HOA area far north of the property will be the black walnut.
Okay,
a minimum of 9, and a minimum of 9 that are bonded, of which we will plant more. And at the end of 3 years, as long as there are at least 9, then we've successfully met the bond requirement.
So, Mr. Jordan, I'm sorry, I have trouble with Mr. Lewis's line. Could you translate that for me a little bit?
Well, I'll try to. It was a little different than my original understanding. So I think what Mr. Lewis is suggesting is that in and around the homes that are being built, they will continue to go ahead and plant the oaks and the bay laurels that they were originally going to be planting. However, in that other area, which someone referred to as a HOA area, but someone else referred to it as the open space area, they will plant black walnuts, 9 of which will be bonded, but additional black walnuts will also be planted. However, those additional black walnuts will not be bonded. So I think what he's proposing is the total number of replacement trees that are required at the 4-to-1 ratio, that number will be bonded. There'll be additional black walnuts that will be planted in the open area that will not be bonded. But some of those replacement trees will continue to consist of oaks and bay laurels in and around the home areas. And I believe, I don't want to speak for Paul too much, it's because in those areas in and around homes, there's a thought that the oaks and the bay laurels will survive better than the black walnuts.
Right.
That's my understanding.
Understood. We've got that. I guess my question would be, can we get, and I'll bring in Mr. Hall on this. Would you unmute Mr. Hall?
Absolutely.
Can we get the replacement trees? We're trying to get to, Mr. Hall's argument, as I understood it, was just make the replacement trees black walnuts. So that's 28 trees. So can we get an agreement that the replacement trees, up to 28, are going to be black walnuts? If they want to put in the oaks and the others around the area, so be it. But because it sounds like we're talking about more trees. But maybe Mr. Hall heard what Mr. Lewis had mentioned, and that's okay with him. Mr. Hall, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm on the line. When I first started this meeting, that's what was the original hope, was that all trees would just be turned into walnuts. But, I think Mr. Lewis came in with a compromise. He even used the word compromise. And I did understand what he had stated, which was that they would continue to plant some oaks and laurels in certain areas, but they would replace the black walnuts 9 in the open space / HOA area, and then they were going to add some additional non-bonded black walnuts in that area. So I think that that I understood what he was saying.
Okay, is that okay with you on your end?
It's hard for me. Yes, it is okay.
Okay. Then, thank you, sir. Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
And Mr. Banuelos. So thank you, Hector, for asking the question that resulted in this clarification. So would you just repeat, and you might do it slowly for me just because I'm having trouble hearing you. That's why I have to have Mr. Jordan translate for me because for some reason your connection isn't as good for me. I can hear everybody else fine, but I'm having trouble with you. If you could just repeat again slowly kind of what we have in our replacement plan so that Mr. Banuelos can hear it and understand it and we can be on the same page.
Okay, I'll try. Can you hear me better now, by the way?
I'm still having trouble with you, but go ahead and just repeat it, and then Mr. Jordan will translate it back for me.
Okay. The replacement trees around the 28 homes will be as currently shown on Susan McGowan's plan with the bay laurel and oaks. And at the far north portion of the project, on the HOA open space, where we currently have 9 trees of oaks and laurels, rather than plant oaks and laurels in the HOA open space, we will plant at least 18, a combination of 5-gallon and 15-gallon black walnut, and at the end of 3 years, the surviving 9, at least if there'll be 9 will be bonded, whichever 9 are surviving, and if there are more, then all of those trees will be available. It'll be a benefit to the environment.
Okay.
David, did you hear that? Because
I was actually able to hear that.
Okay.
So that worked from our end. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. So, Mr. Hall, are we, now that we have that explained, are you clear on that as well?
Yes, I'm clear on that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Banuelos, are you clear on that now that we have the further explanation?
Yes, I think they could probably squeeze in 10 on that area, but yes, I'm okay with that. I'm pretty clear on that. That's the
Okay.
area we're going to change the trees on.
Great, thank you. Then that would be my motion as amended for the replacement tree plan. So it's granting the tree removal request with the condition that was just put on the record regarding the 18 5 to 15 size black walnuts with 9 bonded, and the laurels and oaks around the property, with those black walnuts being in that other space. So, Mr. Banuelos, can you draft the tree replacement plan amendment? We've got it in the oral record right now, and we'll ask for a vote, but I think Dr. Campos would like, and
Still not clear.
understood, but we'll get you it in a written document for your journal. We obviously have meeting minutes and things that we have to finalize. So if you could submit that tree replacement plan as is described orally on our record here to Dr. Campos, that would help us close the matter out. Is that okay, Mr. Banuelos? Hector?
Yes, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I have the numbers already written out if you want to hear them.
You want to hear him, Dr. Campos?
Absolutely.
Go for it. Let's try it.
As long as they add up to 28, and I need to know the box size for each of those trees.
I still have trouble hearing you with your mask, Dr. Campos.
As long as they add up to 28 replacement trees, and Hector, Mr. Banuelos provides the box size tree and the species, I will be clear on how to annotate this.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Hector.
Okay, it appears that with the reduced sizes, we have, also, just for clarification, we're still going to go with the 48-inch box size oak trees, or we downgrade that to 24-inch box size oak trees? I know there's some discussion regarding the reduction of the sizes.
Man, we're going to have to go tree by tree on this doozy.
There was no discussion of the reducing the size of the oaks and the black walnuts.
That's right.
Or
No,
was
well, the
that-
only,
I'm sorry, reduction.
the oaks and the laurels. No change on size on the oaks and the laurels. The only change on size is on the black walnut. So with that in mind, Hector, go ahead.
Okay, so here are the numbers. There will be 12, and that would reduce then from 14 oaks to 12 48-inch box-size Coast Live oak trees. There will be 26 24-inch box-size bay laurels and 10 15-gallon black walnuts.
That's,
With a total of 38 trees.
I had different numbers on the black laurels. I'm sorry, on the black walnuts.
Black walnuts, Mr. Lewis indicated that the 18 black walnuts would be a combination of 5 and 15 gallons.
So we can do 10, 15 gallon. However, it's not 12 48-inch oaks. I don't believe the landscape plan ever showed that, and the planning department said they had said 48-inch, 48-inch. But again, there are no 48-inch black walnuts available, which is the tree we're mitigating.
48-inch box-size Coast Live oaks.
Okay, hold on a second here. I got to look at the original.
Can we just say...
Hector, this is Fernando. Can I just repeat for the record, we're talking about 12 Coast Live oak trees, 48-inch size box, 26...
Wait, stop on that one. Let's do this one at a time.
Okay.
So let's agree to the Coast Live oaks. How many Coast Live oaks do we have, Hector?
That'd be 12.
12. What size box?
48-inch box size.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, are you in agreement on that?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Because
What do you have?
The letter of determination. Well, I'm looking for a clear copy of the landscape plan that was submitted. So it's taking me a minute. But the planning department required 4 trees, minimum 48-inch, not 12 trees, or the equal to the canopy of the replacement trees shall be the proportion of the canopies of the protected trees, which is the totality of all the totality of the 28 trees canopy should be the equivalent of that which is being removed. So again, it wasn't.
Yeah, Mr. Lewis, this is Hector. Within the letter of entitlement, within the letter of determination, it is written in there a minimum of 4 trees, a minimum of 48 box size, if available, shall be planted for each protected tree that is removed. Therefore, we're not going with the 48-inch box size for each tree. That would be 48-inch box size trees. We're asking only for the reduced number would be 12. So you're actually getting a break on that. Right? We know that the black walnuts are not available in that size containers, but we are asking that you as the applicant plant 12 48-inch box size oak trees. At least.
Okay, I'm looking. I think what we had on that report on the lands plan that was submitted was 36-inch box course. And I can give me a second.
I'm reticent to do this during public meeting time if we can't get this done quicker. And I would send you guys back to come back with a plan. Let's try and hash this out quickly.
Real quick, Mr. Cargill, I can't speak for the owner.
Okay.
As far as I can talk between 4-inch box and 15-gallon all day. 48 and 36, the difference there is a major commitment. And I can't speak to the owner on that, so I need the owner to identify what their position is. It's really for Ron.
Mr. President, can you give them a couple of days to hash out the details you're requiring?
Yeah, that's what I was inclined to do, Commissioner Davis. I wanted to try and get this done today because we've got everybody here, but we've got 3 parties that I think we have an agreement in principle. So between Mr. Banuelos, Mr. Lewis, who needs Mr. Cargill's approval, and Mr. Hall, I'd like to see if we could get a tree replacement plan for this project that they could read into the record and provide to Mr. Campos on Friday. Today's Tuesday. That's not putting us over very long. Is that something that we could do, Mr. Banuelos? Are you available on Friday during Friday's meeting?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, you wouldn't necessarily need to be available for the meeting if it's something that everybody agrees to. That's up to you. Is that enough time for you all to work out the number of trees and the size of the box and where they are, since we seem to have agreement in principle?
Yep, I'll talk with the ownership and talk to Hector about that, Mr. Banuelos. And
Okay.
I think we took care of everything Mr. Hall needs, because we're going to do the black walnuts at the north end, which is what he's
Yeah, I'm
looking
having
for.
trouble hearing you again. Mr. Jordan, could you?
Kevin, I'm fine if you want to do that, but if I may be so bold as to point out, in the report from Street Services, which recommended the approval of the removal of all of the trees at issue and the replacement with a combination of oaks and bay laurels, there was an attachment which I thought was the plan that showed the size and location of all of the replacement trees.
I know that, but
The only thing we're doing here is we're replacing some of the bay laurels and oaks with black walnuts. If we make clear that we're not changing the sizes of any of the oaks or bay laurels, and we're simply replacing some of the oaks and bay laurels with walnut trees, then the only thing we need to do is talk about what size the walnut trees are. Everything else is staying the same.
Okay, well, I'm willing to give it one more try under your theory, but I'm not going to spend 15 minutes on it. So,
No, but we don't need to talk about what size the oaks are or the black walnuts, because they are already shown on the plans, unless I'm mistaken about that. All we need to talk about is what size are the black walnuts.
well, we know what size the black walnuts are going to be. It's going to be 5 to 15, right?
Yeah, then I think our record is clear.
Okay, well, okay, so let's nominate someone to try and put the clear. Mr. Jordan, you can try and make the clear record and see if we can get everybody's agreement again. Why don't you start, and then we'll
ask Mr. Banuelos, based on the report that he submitted, is it already clear what size all of the oak trees are and all of the bay laurels? If the answer is yes, then we don't need to go through in the oral record what size the oak trees are or the bay laurels, because we're not changing their sizes. They're already shown in the plans. We're just swapping out some of the oaks and the bay laurels with some black walnuts.
Okay, are we
Size of
clear?
which we've
Are
just
we
done
clear on which ones we're swapping out?
I think that's also shown on the plans, but let me try to see if I can pull it up. If it was transmittal number 12 in the report.
If you look at the plan, house number 12, as you look at the plan to the left of house number 12 of that property is the HOA open space. That's the specific area that we're suggesting to swap out the trees. Page 31 of the tree report, I believe.
Yes, I can see that area on the plans, the area adjacent to house number 12. It's just based on my computer. It's a little hard for me to see.
Ted, I appreciate the attempt.
Sizes, but I can see all the trees there, so it's very clear.
I appreciate the attempt. I feel like this record is potentially confusing. That's why I see the disappointment, but I just don't feel like we're getting there with. I want the parties to go back and have everybody square on this. I'm willing to. Now I'm confused. We've got your documents that you say are clear, and we're just substituting black walnuts for oaks and laurels, correct?
Yes, that's the applicant suggested.
Okay, and the black walnuts that we're substituting in are going to be in the 5 to 15 size, correct?
a minimum of 10 15-gallon and
Yeah.
additional 5 or 15.
Okay,
that we
how many
choose to
are the
plant.
substitute, how many are we, black walnuts are we substituting in?
The current plan in the HOA open area, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, has 9 trees. We are going to do a minimum of 10 15-gallon per Mr. Benuel's request, as well as the applicant will put in additional trees, so we don't face an issue at the end of the 3 years. Should some of the 10 not survive, we have additional backup bonded trees.
Yeah, and Commissioner James,
Backup trees to cover the bond.
yeah, and Commissioner James, I'm actually looking at the plan now. I was able to find the tree legend. Maybe you have to trust me on this, but when you look at the tree plan, that's transmittal number 12 to the street services report, every tree shown on there is identified by color coding and other descriptive elements in the tree legend, and it includes the size. And it also, I can see the 9 trees that Mr. Lewis is referring to, which are immediately adjacent to house number 12, and those trees are very clearly identified, both in terms of variety and shape and size. So if you replace those trees with the black walnuts, I think the record's very clear. I think we're fine. How Dr. Campos writes that in his report, I don't know what he's going to do there, but I can tell you the record is very clear on this, based on the report that is in front of the board. Specifically, it's transmittal number 12 to the street services report. It lays out the size and variety of every single tree that we're talking about.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, are you clear with what Mr. Jordan just said?
Yes, I agree with Mr. Jordan.
Mr. Hall, do you agree with what Mr. Jordan just said?
Yes, and just for the record, I would note that there in the 9 trees in that open space area, 2 of them are live oaks and 7 of them are bay trees. So those 9 trees are going to be replaced with black walnut. But yes, I'm clear.
Okay. Mr. Jordan, were you clear with what Mr. Hall just said?
Yes, I was able to confirm that
Okay.
based on the color coding of the tree plan.
Great. So we now have agreement with all the principals. Could somebody please communicate this, because I can't, Mr. Jordan, to Dr. Campos so that he's satisfied with what he needs?
I will take the lead on that, yes.
Okay, go ahead. You can do it right now.
Okay. Tree planting shall be per the tree plans at transmittal number 12, with the exception.
Oh, you just cut off. We lost your speaker.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Please start over.
Okay. Tree planting as per the tree plans. Transmittal number 12 to the street services report, period. Except that replacement trees numbers, and we'll just have to get the tree numbers, will be replaced with black walnut trees, and I think we said 5 to 15 gallons.
Yes.
Yes.
The only thing I can't see, Paul, is if those replacement trees on your plan are actually numbered. But they're the
No, they're
trees-
not. They're just identified by color, but they're north. It's north of lot number 12.
Yes, and lot number 12 is clearly marked. So, Fernando, the trees being replaced with black walnuts are the 9 trees to the north of lot number 12.
So moved, Mr. President.
Oh, yeah, we've got them. Thank you, Commissioner Davis. We're just getting, that'll be your motion. I'll second it. We're just getting the clarification for Dr. Campos so he can get to his number 28.
Mr. Jordan, this is Fernando Campos.
Do you remove your mask when you do that, Mr.?
Sure.
Thank you.
Not my preference, but I will. Mr. Jordan, all I need to know is how many Coast Live Oak trees are going to be replaced? How many California Bay Laurel trees are going to be replaced? And how many black walnut trees are going to be replaced? I understand the sizes of those, respectively 28-inch size for the live oak, 24-inch for the Laurel Bay, and 5 to 15 gallon for the black walnut. That's very clear. What's not clear to me is the number of tree replacements. All I need is a quantity: live oak, laurel, and black walnut. Your microphone is muted, Mr. Jordan.
I think he's
Here we go.
counting.
Thank you. 7 California bay trees will be replaced with black walnut trees. 2 coast live oak trees will be replaced with black walnut trees. And the 7 bay trees and the 2 coast live oak trees represent the 9 trees that are north of lot number 12.
Okay, I will go back and listen to that the audio.
If you want, you can just take a look at transcendental number 12 to the border board. You'll see the area to the north of lot 12. Put a big circle around it and say, these trees will be black walnut trees.
And for the record, how many total replacement trees will be required? Currently,
That total
the
number
board,
of replacement trees that are being required are the same 28 trees that were always required. But Mr. Lewis said that they're going to plant some additional, I think, an additional 9 black walnut trees in that area to the north of lot 12 to help us ensure that at least 9 survive, because the black walnut trees are a little tricky.
okay, so 28 total replacement trees.
There will be 28 bonded replacement trees.
That's all I need to know.
Okay, so Mr. Commissioner Davis, that's your motion.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'll second it, along with Commissioner Caloza. Commissioner Garcia, any objection?
No, Kevin, nothing. Sorry, President James, no.
Thank you. Commissioner Villegas, any objection?
No, I'm clear, but thank you for your patience.
Well, thank you, everybody. And so, let me just say, Dr. Campos, thank you, sir. Mr. Jordan, thank you for being the translator and the mediator and the court reporter today for reading back the record of sorts. Mr. Lewis and Mr. Cargill, thank you both for your willingness to be open-minded on this. Mr. Hall, thank you again for your creativity and your willingness to work with the team on this. Agenda item number 3, and Mr. Banuelos, thank you as well. We've got our record. Agenda item number 3 has been approved without objection, and without objection, we'll send agenda item number 3, as amended, I should say, heavily amended potentially, back forthwith. So thank you all. Dr. Campos, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a nice rest of the week. Our next meeting, we anticipate, will be Friday, and it will likely be a 1:30 meeting if we have a meeting on Friday. Thank you all. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.